easier to untap all the power of Emacs without having to do all the work. You can rely on the community itself to do that. And let's look in Clojure in Spacemacs. So let's look at this book. So uh, you can also install it inside MS2, MSys2, which is like a Linux environment inside Windows as well. And you can probably do the same thing for other similar environments that are like that. For Emacs, and so you might want to check if you've got, especially if you've got a slightly older Mac, then it might have an older version of Emacs, like 22 or 24. That's not really recommended. It's quite old these days, so we should recommend at least 25. I think with the latest version, it's on 25 already, and the last distribution as well was 25. And package archive for Ubuntu, and so if you wanted to install a newer version than your operating system, your distribution has come with, you can go onto this personal package archive and pull it in. I actually use Emacs Snapshot. I've got Emacs Snapshot installed, which again is Emacs 27. So it's the very latest version, but it's pretty stable and it's really fast, so I quite like that. I do recommend checking out Emacs Snapshot to get the latest version. So I've already got Emacs installed. Now we want to get Spacemacs, and we can just select to we can either download it as a zip file, but what I normally do is I just install it. And so this is just terminal window. I'm just on my root of my user account, but it doesn't actually matter where we're doing this. I'm just going to Control V. Control Shift V, sorry. Yep. At least temporarily, while you kind of try out Emacs, and if you don't need it anymore, you can move any other configurations you want to keep back into Spacemacs as well. Startup. So I'm just going to run Emacs. Boom, boom, boom. And so this will run, and it's already picking up the configuration that we've just downloaded with this git command, and it's asking me whether I want to do do I want to travel among the stars in the evil flagship, which is Vim, or and I can kind of select by going up and down which ones we want, or do I want Planet Emacs in the Holy Control Tower? So that's Emacs is the classic kind of way of using Emacs, so it doesn't give you the Vim style of multimodal editing, which I've now become addicted to. So I'm going to select the default, which is Vim. I do recommend using Vim. I think it's a great way to kind of increase productivity and just be able to mangle text very, very quickly and simply. So I'm going to select Vim. I'm going to go with the standard one. If you wanted to do like massive amount of customization to Spacemacs, you could choose the minimal distribution. But if you just want to tweak a few things, then going with the standard distribution gives you all the features, but still allows you to do your own customizations very easily as well. So I'm going to go with standard distribution, and I'm just pressing enter to get these. And which completion framework do you want to use? So there's Helm or Ivy. They do similar kind of things. Helm's got a lot more features in there, which you will kind of probably use. I use Helm, and I don't feel, although it's got a lot of features in, I still find it very fast and responsive. So I'm still sticking with Helm for now. And that's it. And now it's going to go off and install all the packages, all the kind of default packages that are in the standard distribution for Spacemacs. And it's going to include like the packages for Vim as well, and and all the Helm specific packages that there are as well. And this is saving me having to make a lot of decisions and experimentation of going into Melpa and figuring out which packages to actually install and then configure them together. So just going to let that run for a second. Will take a little bit because it's installing 90 packages, which is not exactly a small feat, but it should be pretty quick on my internet connection. play some background music while we're listening. I'll probably speed this up in the actual video recording of this. So as it's doing it, so we can actually go and have a look at the how to actually set up Clojure. So we don't need our terminal anymore. And so this is going to, it's not, all these packages, they're not going to install Clojure specifically yet. So we do need to go and do some extra stuff. So at the moment we've cloned, oh, I've missed a step off there, haven't I? Oops. Oops. My excitement, I missed a step off there. Okie dokie. Let's go back and re-edit. I'm going to re-edit this video, aren't I? Let's see. Let's go back here. Yes, I forgot to do one important step. So I'm going to. Oops, no, we're not going to do that. Where's Spacemacs? There we go. Just kill that. Is he going to let me kill it? Let me kill Spacemacs. There we go. Oh yes. So we have cloned Emacs now, and sorry, I'll start again. So we have cloned Spacemacs, and we have a directory full of interesting configurations, but there's still stuff to download in all the packages. We just need to run Spacemacs, so run to the branch with some of the features and bug fixes. But there's a big, there's a noticeable gap between develop and master at the moment. So now we're on develop. It will include kind of the latest fixes from Spacemacs as well. And let me just cd out that .spacemacs. And then if we run Emacs, then it will pick up our Emacs. So if we run Emacs, it will pick up our Spacemacs changes. So here we're looking to make a few decisions, and so we can either choose. Occasionally, there is issues with the package management repository. You might kind of have a package that doesn't download quite correctly, so it's always worth kind of after a major install, it's always worth kind of having a quick reboot just to make sure everything's picked up and been included as well. If you're just adding a little bit of functionality, then there's less need to restart Emacs. So we can get rid of the terminal, and let's go on to looking at what we can do for the Clojure experience. Basically IDE for the entire app, and we want to kind of make sure that's on, and it's actually taken me as I learnt Magit, it actually I no longer use the command line, which I was kind of addicted to before. Magit, I think that's there by default already. Tap linters as well, so it can add linters as well. Done. Downloading the all the packages and on Ubuntu and things. So if I want any as well, so and here we can see right at the top we can see the version of Spacemacs and the version of Emacs I'm using as well. So the version of Spacemacs is 0.3 and the version of Emacs is 27.0.50. That's the Emacs snapshot that I installed. So let's go and configure it. So how do we configure Spacemacs? So let's make that full screen, and I can do things like I can just go in and increase the text size. Ooh, I made it go a bit funny there. Oops. And so if I want to edit the file, there's a specific .spacemacs file in the root of my folder, so I could just do space f and that would open a file, and I could do .spacemacs in there, and there's also spacemacs env. But Spacemacs also provides a nice cheat sheet as well. Let me just turn on screen keys so you can see my. Have I got that on here? Oh, I haven't set that up yet. Oops. So just do Q to exit that little transit menu, and so it starts off with this section .spacemacs layers, and so this is the distribution. So this is the full distribution I've chosen. If I just done the minimal one, it would be in Spacemacs base. And there's just a few configurations there which I never really change. To just add Clojure, we could go in and just simply things like auto completion is a nice framework, and also having org mode for documentation and markdown for readmes and so on, and spell checking, syntax highlighting. Treemacs is like a visual file editor. So if I do space application, oops, oh, I've forgotten where it is now. We do space project T. That will open the. That doesn't open Treemacs. Ooh. Oops. Okay, there we go. If you don't know what where a function is, you can always do space. So you do space and then just type in the command. And so I haven't really used Treemacs that much, to be honest. That's why I didn't know where it was. Max, and you can so it gives you if there is a keyboard shortcut for it, it will give it to you there. So it's space FT, which will open up Treemacs, so I can use that instead of doing the command. So space for file and T for Treemacs, which will show you all the files in Treemacs, and it's asking me to where I want to include these. So let's select projects. There we go, and then it will give me this nice kind of navigation of the files in projects. Obviously I need some files first before I can really show you that, and then version control just adds some nice extra features in there as well. Let's go back to my browser, but I want to add a few extra little features in there just to kind of add some nice features in there. So things when I'm actually doing when I'm actually typing it will with the options, and that should be everything else. Has this got Treemacs in? Yeah. This is from a fairly recent commit I've done, so it's all pretty much this. Okay, so this is giving us the auto completion. It's giving us CLJ factor. I'm also adding a linter in there. I've got Jocker installed, but I'll do a separate thing on linting, a separate video on linting. I use a command log, which will show you commands when I get this set up, so you can actually see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. It'll be quite useful. There's a little progress bar. Colors kind of helps us highlight If I'm doing CSS, it will kind of highlight. It will give a background color the same value as like a hex representation of the color name. So I can very easily see what colors are when I'm doing CSS editing. Emojis, you can include emojis in that, so that's kind of sometimes useful for documentation. Git we've already mentioned. GitHub is also a specific layer, so I can do things with gists, and I can also do things with, I can clone repositories and so on. HTML, multiple cursors, Markdown, org mode. I'm just adding GitHub support there. I use Ranger rather than Treemacs very much. That's why I didn't know where it was. Yeah, there's quite a few different options there. Anything else I've done? No, I think that's it. Yeah. So that's for this case. And there are a bunch of things that I will go and change from here as well. Meant to find the occurrences of font, and I can press that selects that terminates me entering kind of the search, and then double quotes. I'll delete to the double quotes, and I can type in Ubuntu Mono, which is a fault that's installed, and then press escape to in my configuration file. But again, you can scale font sizes pretty easily in Spacemacs as well. And I think that's all I need to do for now. I also put in, this is quite useful actually, putting in strict mode for smart parens, so for the structural editing. So it means you can't accidentally delete parentheses, like you can't actually delete the open and closing brackets without first deleting or getting rid of the contents within inside them. So I'll change those as well. So we do smart parens. So I just did a search /search for smart parens. Press enter. Do Control L to put it in the middle. Let's put it at the top there. I'm going to leave the line numbers for now. So strict mode, I'm going to, instead of being nil, it's no basically, and I'm going to call that T for true. So that's basically switching it from off to on. And press escape. And I do the same thing for this as well. So I can just press dot to repeat the same function. This idea of changing a word into T. Just pressing dot repeats that for me. I think that's it. Oh, so let's save that. So I can do space, F for file, E for Emacs, and then R, capital R, which will sync the configuration, which will basically just go off and download any new packages and so on. That's one approach, but as I've changed an awful lot of this, I'm just going to restart Spacemacs. So I'm going to do space, Q for quit, and then R for restart. There we go. So I'm just going to restart Spacemacs. It's going to go through and see if it needs to update any packages. So we've installed Spacemacs, and then we've changed over to the developer branch. Oh yeah, and then when we want to update Spacemacs, I can update Spacemacs from within Spacemacs, or you can just use the git command line. So basically it's just doing a pull of the latest changes. And so here's a video in the book to kind of show you that in action. And here I'm going into Magit, which is the Git client, and then I'm going to do put P for pull, and I'm going to set rebase to true, and then it just pulls from the upstream, and that will pull in any new configurations with inside .emacs.d, and we'll also need to kind of check that the Spacemacs configuration is okay. Space fed will open up a diff session so we can compare our current Spacemacs with any new changes, anything that's new that's been added to the Spacemacs configuration from its template. So that's pretty easy. It's just it's a very nice side-by-side diff session you can get. And then finally we'll update the packages as well. Let's see if Spacemacs has finished. It has, yes, there we go, cool. and it's as it restarted, it's gone back to my original file that was up, and I'm just going to do space BD buffer delete, and you can see it also keeps track of the recent files in as well, which you can just press R to jump to the recent files and go and select some. And now I can, now we've got Clojure installed, I can go in and just open a file. So I'll do space F for opening a project file for Clojure, and let's let's do the project one there. Let's just do the project CLJ file. It's the easiest one to find. You can see we've got, if we do space ZX plus 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 plus, so we've got our project. This is a lining on project. So we've got our def project thing there, but it's all syntax highlighted. And if I start doing things like that, we've got smart parens, so it's giving us the matching brackets as we type. And if we start typing in functions, oh, actually we'll need to start a REPL. Pick it up. Yes, so it's picked it up now, and it's injecting. It's found a line, user bin line. I'm going to update in dependencies. It's injecting nREPL. So this is basically starting this project, a REPL for this project using Liningen, and it's going to set up a connection to that REPL from the editor using nREPL, and it just updates a whole bunch of plugins that we need to the right version, so we don't need to do any other configuration. And now it's saying we've got a direct connection to the REPL that's running on localhost, so we can actually go in and do some coding. So if I do, let's open up a file. So if I do open up a source for Clojure, and then what's the latest one I did? Let's do. Doesn't really matter. I did regular expressions. Let it be. There we go. Let's do that one. We're going to make that bigger. Z plus x x x x x. There we go. And Q, and then do G. So we can start doing some Clojure coding, docstring as well from other things. If we do map, but we can choose different related functions on there as well. Structured editing, so underneath the space K is the list mode, and allows us to do a whole bunch of structural editing, slurping and barfing, and raising and lowering. So I'll do a specific video for that as well. But now we've got a pretty good Clojure environments and development tool. We can also go and have a look at the REPL. If we do comma cider switch to REPL buffer, we can see the REPL buffer is there. That's not shown by default, and I'm quite happy with that because I rarely use the REPL buffer directly. I can just do space WD to get rid of that for now. I basically just edit things in the REPL here. Sorry, in the editor. So here I quite like using the comments for things. So I can go in and do comma E for evaluate, and then I can evaluate this function by just doing F, and it will give us the results, which is 10. So it gives us a transitory result. So as soon as I move off, then it goes away. Or I can do comma E semicolon, and it will put the evaluation there as a comment as well. And I can also do EE as well, so I can do comma EE, which it doesn't know where it doesn't know the symbol there, so it's just trying to evaluate just plus X and Y, and it's not, and that's giving me an error because that's not the whole expression. If we do comma EE here, then that's the same as like the comma EF, but we're doing that at the end of the expression. So it's comma EE is evaluating the previous S expression, the previous expression that we've written in Clojure. There we go. And that's it. And I'll cover kind of navigating and playing around with projects later in another video. That gives you an idea about how to set up Spacemacs, which is fairly easy. So install Emacs, install Clojure, which is basically installing Leiningen, and then install Spacemacs, which is just cloning the repository, switch into the develop branch, and then just adding a few layers on there as well, and that's it. And you just restart Emacs, and it will install everything for you and configure everything very nicely for you. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you found that very useful. And if you go to Practically website, then you can get access to the book. It's all online. And if you see anything missing or extra content you want to add, then please let me know. Thank you very much, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.